I threw this slide in here really just to kind of be funny. Being a woman is a terribly difficult task since it consists principally of dealing with men. Now, I want to be clear. My husband's in the audience. I have all boys. I just did this as more just to kind of break things up as we're kind of transitioning into the gender specifics. Okay. As it pertains to men and women, it isn't all equal. And we'll talk about this in a second. Okay. I found this really interesting when I was preparing for this talk, the realization that a lot of research dollars that are out there up until a certain point. So in 1977 and 1993, women of reproductive age were required to be excluded from phase 1 clinical trials because of concerns about teratogenic, which means they were concerned about the potential impact on a fetus or a pregnancy. Now, what this means is that for a long period of time, women have been left out of research studies. So when people ask me, where's the research when you're talking about these topics, I always have to remind them that a lot of research that's done on fasting, as one example, is done on rodents, it's done on men, or it's done on obese menopausal women. And so as I remind people, we need to continue to do the work so that we can better represent all women. Research, there are potential complexities, and this is actually a quote, of controlling for a woman's menstrual cycle serves as a deterrent for the inclusion of females in experimental design for both animal and human studies. I found that really interesting. There was actually a researcher who went back and was trying to find out why there were inequities about specific types of research done on women, and they started to look, there was a gender bias because having to account for a menstrual cycle was an inconvenience to the researchers. I get it. You can't control it, right? Since then, there's been increasing emphasis on the inclusion of women in clinical trials, as well as statistical analysis that specifically evaluate possible sex differences. As I stated, most research is done on lab animals, and last time I checked, our reproductive cycles are not the same, men and then menopausal women. So when I start talking to people, and obviously I just recently wrote a book talking about the differences between, or how women have to fast very differently, I always remind people that a lot of the research that's been done, there's not enough. So that is going to be forthcoming. And there are obviously a lot of clinicians, Dr. Jason Fung and I have talked about this ourselves. There's a lot of good research that's ongoing that will improve for things. So when we talk about differences between men and women, the two that I like to focus on the most are related to bone and skeletal muscle. Obviously there are other changes. There's brain physiology changes. There's changes in our immune systems, our liver, and our vasculature. But skeletal muscle in particular is of tremendous interest.